You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, we're about to get started with our first Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. Truly enjoy being able to answer all of your questions that come in each and every week. And I think we're just about 2 weeks behind. So if you asked a question just 2 weeks ago, we are getting to those on today's show. So do always stay tuned. Do try to listen in as possible on a daily basis. I hope that we're keeping the content varied enough so that you'll always get a little something out of each and every individual show. And even if you're not necessarily focused on you for that particular topic, I usually bring in different ways where we can apply it to almost every single person, and it just gets you to think in a little different light. So right now, there seems to be, this is just for anything. Our world, our media, our culture goes in trends. We bounce from the Atkins diet. I remember when I was kind of coming up through the nutrition part of it. And then it was now let's get maybe a little healthier, go to Salt Beach. And then let's try, what was next after that? Well, it was moving more towards maybe Mediterranean based, but not true Mediterranean. And then it was low carb again, but not with as much bacon. And now it's back to bacon and butter with a keto diet. So you have to understand is everything just kind of rolls in trends. What we try to do on this show is just make sense of it and make sense of who does each nutrition plan, exercise plan, wellness plan, who is it best for? Because you know what? A lot of these plans can be great for individual people, but not excellent for others. And that's what we're trying to differentiate on this show. And the house calls are simply our way to make it a little bit more personalized. Now, of course, I can't give you medical advice, nor am I giving you medical advice, but I'm giving you a place to start. I'm giving you an area to look at that you most likely haven't gotten from an MD, PCP, or so that isn't trained in functional medicine, maybe naturopathic medicine, or some type of holistic way of seeing the whole body. So let's get right into today's questions. We've got some fantastic ones. The first one's going to be quite a longer one. So like I always say, if you write in a longer question, I simply can't read it on the show because it would take 4 or 5 minutes. So even though I can read quickly, when it actually comes to reading out loud, it's very slow. So I don't want to bore anyone with that particular process. Everyone's question is absolutely amazing. It deserves to be heard. But what I'm going to do is always give people a summary of everything that's going on, and then you'll be able to read it all below the show notes, okay? Whether it's on iTunes or just the show notes page. And you know what? Before we get started, why don't I give you today's show notes link? Today is stephencabral.com/463. And of course, for back episodes, always just go to stephencabral.com/podcast. Okay. So up next is Sinjin, and I should say up first, and they are, and again, I say this jokingly, but they are going to win the award for longest questions so far on the Cabral HouseCall. All joking aside, it's a really great question. I'm going to summarize it right now. But although, they gave me all this information, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. So let's get into it. Hello, Dr. Cabral and team. First of all, thank you so much for making these podcasts happen. I'm a new listener, and I've been learning so much from your talks and really enjoy the open-mindedness you have with health and individuality. So then Sinjin goes on to say, I'm a 25-year-old and slowly over the past few years starting to understand how important it is to look at healing from a holistic approach. Now, this particular person has gotten bronchitis through college, tried a lot of different herbal remedies, not great at sticking with more of a plant-based diet, recurring lung-based problems, sinus infections, a lot of swollen lymph nodes, a little bit of LPR, which I've spoken about before. That's basically a swallowing based issue. You can look up previous episodes on LPR as well, which I'll get into in just a moment. They've been given multiple courses of antibiotics. They've seen acupuncturists. They've tried all different types of diet changes. They've had their blood work done. Their blood work, they said, was overall pretty well. They've had a little bit of anxiety. I just started your ear, nose, and throat protocol, but it's still experiencing some congested nose in the morning and see a little bit of yellow in my morning snot after using the neti pot. Also swollen lymph nodes in the neck. This has been going on obviously for quite a while. I feel that I might have candida and bacterial overgrowth problems. Do you have any practitioners that you could recommend in the Florida Keys? Want to start lifting more optimally in a more holistic way? And now the questions. How to heal asthma and anxiety? What's causing the swollen lymph nodes? How to beat the sinus infection and congestion? What can I do to not have stinky gas constantly? Where can I find holistic practitioners near me? What causes cherry angiomas and how can I get rid of them? Okay, so even though the question was long, I'm going to give you the short answer because this really is honestly very straightforward. It's going to be very difficult to get rid of the sinus congestion, swollen lymph nodes when your lymphatic system is all gummed up and junked up. And yes, those are very technical terms because your gut is not functioning properly. So if you have gas, if you suspect the GI-based issues, yes, run an organic acid test. Ideally, try to run a food sensitivity test as well. Keep in mind that your body, your immune system, 80% of your immune system is right around those Peyer's patches and the gut-associated lymphoid tissue called the GALT, which also affects the MALT, which is your mucus-associated lymphoid tissue, and all of those immunoglobulins that we've spoken about before, the IgA, the IgE, and then some more of the latent response, the IgG, are all located within this mucus layer in your intestines. It can move in and out of that. It's going to be creating inflammation. If there's intestinal permeability or leaky gut, well, all of these fats as well that also don't get digested because of maybe low stomach acid, poor bile production then, end up as partially digested. These things can also move through the gut wall, and that can also, like I said, congest the lymphatic tissue, which can then lead to swollen glands. So infrared sauna, jumping on a rebounder, dry brushing, that's a great start right there. And then also, if you're not willing to run the organic acids test or food sensitivity test, then start right away on the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. That's a big spot to work with. You can work with one of our health coaches just literally by going to, well, you can just email us if you want anytime. It's support@stevencabral.com. Say I'm interested in working with one of your team members. And remember, if you run the organic acids test or the food sensitivity test, you automatically get a 30-minute call with one of my health coaches included with that. And I look over your lab personally and give recommendations to the health coach before you actually meet with them. If you want to work with a practitioner in your area in the Florida Keys, I'm sure there's one, no doubt about it. You could just go to the Institute for Functional Medicine, ifm.org, and you can find a practitioner there. Remember, practitioners, just like any industry, will vary. And so just find one that kind of specializes in what you're looking for. And then the cherry angiomas, well, this has been shown to come from bromides or bromines that are added to processed foods, that are often in swimming pools, that are in hot tubs, and these can really create an issue for the prostate as well as the body detoxifying. There are many other reasons as well, but remember, once you get that lymphatic system working better, once you start doing the sauna, then you'll be able to cut down on those cherry angiomas. What helps with those as well? Well, you can actually get rid of them by using apple cider vinegar, and there are other treatments as well, grapefruit seed extract. And if you can, you can use a sterilized needle. Again, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just saying it's an option. And then using the apple cider vinegar on top, it basically just kind of is like a chemical peel for them. It takes them off the body. So hopefully that's a good place for you to get started. And we hope to hear your progress report soon. Anonymous is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have trouble sweating for as long as I can remember. I only sweat from my head and hairline. After an intense workout, my head will be full of sweat, but the rest of my body will be dry. I know I am working out hard enough to break a sweat. I wear a heart rate monitor and hit zones 4 and 5. Why do you think this happens? And do you have any recommendations to balance this? Okay, so this is actually it can be a medical condition. It's the opposite of hyperhidrosis. It's called anhidrosis. My pronunciation might be a little off there, but again, I am from Boston. So with anhidrosis, the opposite is your body's not sweating enough. And so this can actually be a hypothalamus-based issue. Usually it's not something as serious as this, but the hypothalamus not regulating body temperature and thermogenesis quite as well as it should. It could be hypothyroid, so a lower thyroid-based condition. Not allowing, again, the same type of thermogenic. Actually, it's more of a metabolic-based issue. So remember, when we say metabolism, we're not just talking about weight loss. We're talking about cellular metabolism, how the body works at a metabolic level, meaning the processes of the specific body itself. It can also be a detox issue. We see this quite a bit. We actually see it as an imbalance between sometimes the autonomic nervous system feedback loops between sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. We know in the sympathetic nervous system, the body actually sweats quite a bit. It sweats as almost like an overproduction of from a stress. Basically, the body's overheating it. It's removing that heat through the cooling process of sweating. Now, how do we see it specifically? Well, we see it like this. When people aren't balanced, when they aren't healthy, and they use an infrared sauna, they actually don't sweat very much initially. Then after treatment 4 or 5, they do start to sweat. That's a much healthier sign for the body. So that's how I look at it. I would try out an infrared sauna. I find it to be quite remarkable in helping to heal the body. It works at a hermetic-based response level. It works with heat shock proteins. It gets the body to create a little bit of more of a natural stress, but also, again, from a parasympathetic nervous system healing perspective, because the body isn't actually at work, it's at rest, but at the same time still sweating. It's very unique. Again, Native Americans used sweat lodges. Ayurvedic times, they used sweat boxes. Really phenomenal. Some people they just gave sun therapy to, and they would actually just sit and sweat in the sun. So that's something that I absolutely do recommend. And if you have not done a detox yet, I can't recommend that enough. Okay, CC's up next. Hello, my husband has an enlarged prostate. He has 0 sex drive but cannot take testosterone due to his issue. Is there anything he could try homeopathically? We are far too young not to have sex anymore. You are awesome, and I love your show. Thank you, Cece. So here's what can be going on. I work with a lot of men in my practice with enlarged prostate. A lot of it is heavy metal toxicity, as well as different environmental-based toxins that specifically affect the prostate that create inflammation. Okay, so that's one area. That affects erectile dysfunction, as well as urinary-based issues, incomplete urination, incontinence. So that has to be fixed. What do we use? Well, we do 2 things. We'll do a heavy metal detox if we run a hair tissue mineral analysis and we find that they're high in aluminum, higher in mercury, higher in arsenic, any one of those specific things. Or we will do a toxicity test, which again is just a simple urine-based test. You can find all these at the stevencabral.com/store website. I won't keep repeating that. You can just always go there for what we do in my practice. Okay, so that's going to tell you about flame retardants, plasticizers, all those things that your husband's most likely not aware of. Now, most guys just happen to fall into the, I don't believe you, prove it to me. Well, these labs prove it to you. They show heavy metals with the hair tissue mineral analysis, and the urine-based test, the toxicity test, shows environmental toxins like pesticides and those types of things. Okay, these can then cause prostate-based issues. Now, how do we go about fixing that? Well, we can do a heavy metal detox for sure, but we also should just be doing detoxes in general. I'd love him to do a 21-day Dr. Ball detox. That's going to reduce the inflammation, probably right away on the prostate as well. What I would also recommend is using a prostate-based product. There's a lot of good prostate-based products out there. Okay, saw palmetto, beta-sitosterol, zinc, selenium. Those are all must-haves. There's a great product called Prostate B, so Prostate B. That's a good one. I'll link one up on the show notes today. So just go to stevencabral.com/463. I will make sure that I link up a specific product for your husband. Have him use it for a minimum of 4 weeks. He should start to see the benefit there. Zinc, selenium, yes, they work on a smaller detoxification-based level. They help boost testosterone, especially zinc. Glutamine will help with that as well. Have him start to do some sauna, some detox as well. That will certainly help. No need to take testosterone because, yes, that is not going to be good for the prostate as well in terms of estrogen conversion and DHT-based conversion. DHT is dihydrotestosterone, which can swell the prostate as well as add hair onto guys' backs. Nobody wants that, and it takes it off their head. So it basically falls off the head and lands on the back. That's what we usually say. So we certainly don't want that for men either. But this is very fixable. Very, very fixable, CC. I know that your husband, if he really sticks to it, will be able to work with this. And let me just give you a few more tips because I'd like to do that. So reducing meat, reducing these inflammatory foods, getting more on a plant-based diet. I know easier said than done, but it starts with just doing a smoothie in the morning, a little oatmeal if he would like, and cut out the dairy completely. Just get rid of it. No need for it. Not healthy. Get rid of it. That will help with the prostate as well. A little bit more of a detoxifying-based diet, some green juices if he wants, or just use the daily fruit and vegetable blend. That's the powder that we have. Just 1 tablespoon. Shake it up in water as a pre-workout or put it in a smoothie. That's going to get some more detoxifying items into his body as well. Okay, Tony is up next. Tony is asking, hello, I have been using maca powder in my smoothies, coffee every day due to the female estrogen dominant health benefits. I just saw recently in fine print on the package, this product contains a chemical known in the state of California to cause birth defects or other reproductive harm. And then under that, it says, eat in good health, ? What is sold at Whole Foods? It is organic from Navitas Naturals. Is this something to be worried about? Do you recommend maca as an added daily boost to baseline healthy diet? I love the flavor and texture it gives me, my coffee and oatmeal. Thanks. Okay, so I have two feelings on this is called Prop 65, California State Prop 65. You're welcome to look it up if you would like. I have mixed feelings on this. One, they're trying to protect people. The problem is that everyone is guilty until proven innocent. And the problem is with this, that the levels are so low for these heavy metals that can cause birth defects, but not at this microscopic level. Believe it's at 0.5 micrograms is the level. Yes, it is. 0.5 micrograms of things that can actually just be in the soil or natural plants or leaves that then get this label that shows like, well, this could cause birth defects. But, the problem is this, that what they're doing is scaring a lot of people away from very good products. So a product like the one that you're talking about might have 0.6 micrograms of lead in it. Now, I know that sounds scary, and there's no doubt about it. We don't want a lot of lead in our diet. But just as a comparison, you would get that same sticker put on, or that same Prop 65 warning put on the majority of the sweet potatoes, the spinach, all sorts of different types of lettuce and lettuce leaves, different types of fruit, bread or processed foods. All of those would have the same Prop 65 warning because there's over 0.5 micrograms of lead in all of those things that I just named. But it's naturally occurring from the soil. And in the long run, or even in the short run, it doesn't cause any issues. It's at levels about 1,000 times that it actually starts to cause certain birth defects. Meaning, like, you really need to get above 250 micrograms per day, or I believe it's the World Health Organization, I'm pretty sure, quotes at 250 micrograms. And I know the FDA allows for at least 75 micrograms per day. So if you think about that, you're getting 0.6 micrograms. You're getting a fraction, a tiny amount of what it would lead to, 150 times or something like that you would have to take in. So my recommendation is this. All supplement manufacturers are dealing with this act right now in California. It's ridiculous. But you do have to do this. You have to work with a good brand. And the brand that you just named is a good brand. In my opinion, I would not be worried. That's my opinion, okay? You could do what you feel is best for you. I simply would not be worried going with a good, reputable brand. But of course, I would never buy supplements from like an Amazon-based company or not a reputable brand like one of the big brands, or from a doctor that is manufacturing it. Like, there's a lot of great doctors in California as well who manufacture and oversee their own products. Like, I get to third-party test my particular products, and the ones that are my products, I get the third-party qualification scores from the other independent functional medicine companies like a Thorne or Orthomolecular or Pure Encapsulations, one of those. So yes, it does sound very scary, but not at the levels that most people are at. So hopefully that puts your mind at ease a little bit. Maca is a great product. It's great for libido, great for stamina, great for hormone balance. Do you need it on a daily basis? Well, it's a supplement. And if you feel you need those particular benefits on a daily basis, then I see no issue at all. Okay, Anonymous is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have a medical grade silicone implant in my face of my doing. I wasn't happy with my appearance. How do you feel about this material inside the human body? Supposedly it will last a lifetime and have no effects whatsoever. Now that I am more into health, I may be regretting my decision to do this. Any thoughts? Welcome to help put me at ease or not. Thank you. Okay, Mary, I'm glad that you are open to the possibilities that there might be some side effects. We'll put it that way. So here's the thing. With silicone implants in general, whether it's breast implants, facial implants, wherever it might be, I just want to note there's a difference between a silicone encased implant or an actual injection of silicone. So an actual injection of silicone seems to be worse, to fill lines in the face and lips and those types of things. The actual, I don't know the best way to say it, but basically a bag-like structure, plastic bag filled with silicone, is a little bit safer. And the reason is the silicone, the gel, is actually kept intact within the bag. The problem is they don't tell most people that these can eventually start to leak, typically somewhere around a 10-year period of time. So you may have to have yours replaced. Very important to look at because the side effects come typically with leaking of that can cause inflammation, that can cause obstruction of arteries, that can also cause an autoimmune-based reaction. So very, very important that you look at that autoimmune-based or other type of immune-based reaction. The other part is that there's a rare chance, it's rare, and it's more in breast implants, but again, we're looking at the same type of implant, that there can be it's called an ALCL. So it's a type of lymphoma. And the lymphoma can grow as a result of this implant itself. So basically what you're doing is you're putting something foreign inside your body. And in some people, although small, the body does have a resistance to that. It has its own autoimmune response to that. And that can cause some type of response to the body, whether it be inflammation-based, a change in pH around that particular product itself, which could then lead to metastasis or tumor-based growth. So something to look into. I would look into it in that particular area. If it improves your self-esteem, you're feeling better about it, and having no adverse side effects, well, then at the very least, you'll want to look at the replacement timeline of when you'll have to have that replaced, which I believe, again, for most people, it's somewhere around the 10-year mark. And again, don't quote me on that because, of course, your plastic surgeon would know far more about that than I would. Hopefully that helps. Okay, next step is from Mary. Could be the same Mary. We have two Mary questions in a row. Okay. Thank you for your help. I love your podcast. Do you have any thoughts on cerebral palsy? Any recommendations for treatment? Okay, so in cerebral palsy, also probably more popularly pronounced cerebral palsy, affects children, sometimes in utero, sometimes after birth, especially at a young age, in brain development. And because of this, there's issues sometimes in posture, in the way that the body moves and functions from a nervous system to muscle-based movement, which is called the neuromuscular level of how the body interacts. There can be exaggerated responses. There can be a little bit of rigidity sometimes in the body itself, meaning like the limbs. There can be just some erratic movements. A lot of times there's, kind of sucking patterns with the mouth. And what we're looking at is the way in which the brain and the brain stem and the entire, cerebrum and as well as the spinal cord interacts with the body itself. So brain to body movement. I think that's the best way to put it. So what we're looking at is a lot of times a greater amount of inflammation in the brain itself as well. And we're looking at the actual quality of the neural synapses. So how information is transferred from brain to spinal cord, brain to body. Okay, here's just some of the data. And again, in my clinical perspective, I just want to be upfront. I've never worked with anyone specifically with cerebral palsy. That's not my area of expertise. However, I know the specific symptoms. I know how the body is affected by it, and I want to give you a place to start. I also want to show you what the research says. So the research, especially from it's called My Child Cerebral Palsy Foundation. So they're actually recommending alternative forms of treatment, which we're talking about obviously natural health, as well as conventional-based forms, because I know there's not a lot of conventional-based things that you can do, but there's some. So there's some to look into. What they're showing right now is you need to get enough good, healthy fats in a child's diet, and you need to start from as early of an age as possible. So this is showing both good fats like coconut oil as well as fish oil. So omega-3s seem to play a really large role, especially DHA and EPA, because EPA helping with the basically inflammation and DHA helping with the brain and nervous system, both really, really important. So I would personally use the product called Pure Omega. You'll see that on our website as well. Integrative Therapeutics makes it really nice product, high in EPA, decent in DHA. Just keep in mind that DHA can flow down to EPA, but EPA does not move in reverse to DHA. You need both, okay? They're both great to have. So really, really important, usually around 2 to 3 grams of each of those, total, I should say, per day. Start at that, really nice position. Great for brain trauma in general. There seems to be some research showing that acupuncture can be very, very helpful. And I found that as well with my study in China for any type of nervous system-based disorder as well. Occupational therapy, physical therapy, linguistic-based therapy, all of those are great. Ginger, any anti-inflammatory, any digestive-based, really, really helpful as well. Gut-based products, probiotics, all very, very helpful. So I'm certainly not an expert in this particular area, but hopefully that was enough to at least get you started. Okay, Mary, your next question is, she writes, hi again, do you have any suggestions for managing or healing Raynaud's, which she wrote cold hands and cold feet? So sure, I see this in my practice now all the time. This is something that I literally see, I would say every week, every other week. And Raynaud's is always a symptomatic issue of fight or flight or over sympathetic nervous system drive. So it's actually really easy to explain that when the heart basically pumps out through the heart, and you're working on your cardiopulmonary based system, how we oxygenate blood, how it moves through the body. Well, if you want to think about it, you have this big basin of blood in the beginning of the chest. And then as it moves through the extremities, the river from the basin gets smaller and smaller and smaller to get to little tiny streams and then just little tiny riverbeds in your fingers. Well, if things start to get constricted, the constriction affects the smaller capillaries in the fingers much more than the larger arteries, veins inside the body itself. So I find that's the easiest way to explain it to people. And then when you think about that, well, you're getting that arterial-based constriction because of a sympathetic nervous system dominance, which means that your body is getting ready for a fight or flight-based response, which means that more of the blood is pulled into the core of the body to get ready for that response, so less so at the extremities. Once you switch out of that sympathetic nervous system dominance by inducing the relaxation response, by lowering cortisol, by lowering that response in general in the body, you're going to switch out of that response and then move out of what's called Raynaud's disease or syndrome, or however you want to phrase it. It's all the same. It really is. So you need to fix whatever the underlying root cause is, whether it's the high cortisol, whether it's the calcium to magnesium imbalance, whether it's low electrolytes, such as potassium, whether it's high blood pressure right now, cardiovascular based issues. So find out the core thing, and then the Raynaud's will literally fall in line. So hopefully that gets you started moving in the right direction as well. But that's not a hard thing to fix. And again, we're not talking about treating disease. We're talking about working on underlying root cause issues. Okay, Suzanne's up next, and she's also up last. Our last community member of the day asking a question. My front, top, and bottom teeth are becoming very translucent. My partner actually pointed this out as a very noticeable, as did my parents. They look gray, almost half of the tooth. How can I stop this? I do battle with candida, etc., and get heartburn a lot. Will I have to get veneers? Anyway, to naturally help this or fix this, what causes this? I'm 33 years old, drink coffee in the AM and wine on the weekends. Sincerely, Suzanne. Okay, Suzanne, again, very easy explanation for this. Think of your hair, your teeth, and your nails as kind of a gateway into the strength of your bones in general. Weak or brittle hair, weak or brittle nails, ridges on the nails, white spots on the nails, light colored teeth, almost translucent teeth. I've been talking a lot actually over the last couple of weeks, which is strange. It's just sometimes things just come in waves. Well, I've spoken about this before. There's actually a book called, I think, Facial Diagnosis. And it just shows you that when the teeth become a little translucent, it does mean that there is a lack of minerals in the body, typically calcium. Hopefully that's not coming as a surprise. Teeth, calcium-based as well, phosphorus-based, all those types of minerals. And same with the bones. So what's happening is most likely what's going on with your teeth, they're being demineralized, just like the same thing that can happen with your bones. So they can be stress-based. There can also be poor absorption. You mentioned you might have candida. Well, until you fix the candida and gut-based issues. This is why I talk about gut-based issues all the time. You can't properly absorb all the good nutrients that you might be eating. Meaning, like, you could be following a really good diet, but you can't absorb all of the minerals. And if you can't absorb all the minerals, well, they can't use those to help rebuild bone, to help rebuild tissue. So fix your gut. Increase your absorption. You can just start with the daily digestive enzyme that we have on the website. It's very, very popular. It works phenomenally well. You simply just take 1 to 2 of those with all whole food meals, typically with lunch and dinner. Do your smoothie in the morning because that's already pre-digested. Use the daily nutritional support shake. You can use the daily fruit and vegetable blend just for more natural minerals in that as well. Try to drink some ginger tea with your protein meals, or you can use betaine HCl if you'd like to help break down the protein better. Absolutely use the daily nutritional support or an activated multivitamin so that you're getting the vitamin and the minerals together. Another thing that helps well is oil pulling. I recommend oil pulling with sesame oil. That would be great for you. And then do stay tuned for an upcoming Friday review because I'm actually going to give you one of the best toothpastes to use for remineralizing the teeth. So can you use calcium magnesium? Yes. Never use calcium on its own, especially for women. Try to use a CalMag, a 1-to-1, ideally, of calcium to magnesium. Try to make sure that it's not the carbonate form or the oxide form. Look for some of the other forms like a chelated form or a glycinate or a lactate or a malate or any one of those that are a lot more high quality. So hopefully this answers your questions. Most likely this is what it is. Let me just give you one more reason that it could be. When someone drinks coffee or when they have a lot of acid reflux or silent reflux, they can actually be breaking down the enamel and the teeth that way as well. So just make sure that you've fixed those digestive issues as well. So to me, it sounds like you have a gut-based issue. Let's fix that. Let's work on that. Let's work on and then better absorption on your own. And then we're working on this problem in the long term so that it continues not to get worse, but also that you start to remineralize those teeth as well. Thank you everyone for tuning in to another Cabral House Call. I do appreciate each and every one of your listens, and I'll be back tomorrow answering another 7 or 8 questions from our community. Take care, everyone.
I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.